Hi there and welcome. I'm Jason, and this plant right here is called Pittosporum tenuifolium Harley Botanica. And this is a pretty awesome plant. The origins of this plant are the mountain forest of New Zealand. And this is an incredible screen plant. It's very columnar, upright, and evergreen. What I really like about it as far as a screen is that it's not too dense and shady and it's still very bright. It has variegated foliage. As you can see there, the foliage is super bright and variegated. A lot of air passes through, and as this plant gets larger, it gets 10 to 15 feet tall and wide. It gets dense enough that you actually can't see through it. So it's like you still have airiness and brightness, but then you will get some privacy over time. In some soils, this plant grows relatively quicker. In other soils, it might grow a little slower, but it's a super tough plant and it will grow in pretty much, whether you have loam or clay or sandy soil, it'll grow in that. If you have clay soil though, you do want some porosity and airspace and drainage. So I do recommend highly that you amend the clay soil, a great deal before planting this plant in it. It's a very tough plant though. As far as the care requirements, the lighting this plant wants is sun to part shade. So it's very adaptable to lighting. It's very upright and columnar, so it'll go in a lot of different spots. As far as the watering, it's super drought tolerant, but it will take some water. If you have it on a medium water regimen, it'll take that. If you have a lower water regimen for your plant, it'll grow in that too. As far as fertilizer, you don't need to fertilize it. It has all the nutrients it needs in your soil. Just make sure that you mulch the soil in the fall. That's always a great thing to do for your plants. It helps the soil retain moisture, and then it also nutrients break down over the cool season and become a source of sustenance for your plant when it's in colder weather. When you mulch, you want to mulch a couple inches away from the base of your plant. So don't put mulch on the very bottom of your plant. Just put it a couple inches out. And that's a really awesome source of nutrients for this plant. As far as the soil pH, this plant's very adaptable. You can grow it in acidic, neutral, or alkaline soil. As far as propagation, you can propagate this plant via cuttings in the spring. As far as growing this from seed, I wouldn't do that. And I mean, you can, but it probably won't come true to the parent plant. You might get some other kind of variation of leaf foliage as far as the color. If you want this variegated foliage, a lot of plants that are variegated are a sport or a mutation, or it happens. And usually those are plants that you have to propagate vegetatively via cuttings. But yeah, pretty awesome plant for a number of different reasons. You can use it to fill a lot of different spaces and brighten up a spot. It is deer and it's deer resistant. I believe that it's gopher resistant because I've never seen them mess with this plant. I have this outside and there's been gophers in the garden and they don't seem to affect this plant at all. So it's a pretty awesome plant for those reasons too. As far as blooming, this plant can bloom in the spring. It blooms little tiny purple flowers. I haven't seen the ones that I have outside bloom yet. They may take a couple years before they bloom. If they're younger planting, they might not bloom until they're more established. But Pittosporum are known for having a citrusy scented flower, which is really nice and pleasant scented flower. So if you do get flowers, they'll be very tiny on this plant. But if you have any questions about this plant, once again, this is called Pittosporum tenuifolium Harley Botanica. And if you'd like updates on my newer videos, please click that subscribe button. And once again, my name is Jason. Thanks so much for hanging out.